Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivsadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivsadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopi Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapt Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya. Shri Radha Guru Kananda Bhagwan ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhaiya. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Rina ji. Hare Krishna, Ajay.
Hare Krishna, sir.
Hare Krishna, Mayur. Hello, Neetu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhaiya.
Krishna,
Hare
chalo,
Krishna.
nice. Krishna, Mayur. तो हम लोग ऑलमोस्ट 2 महीने के बाद शुरू कर रहे हैं वापस से, almost 2 months break, and so far, we have read, we did almost 224 sessions, और आज 225th session अपन पढ़ रहे हैं श्रीमद् भागवतम का. So I think we also welcome Sweta and Munmun, वो लोग first time join कर रहे हैं, and I know Neetu, you have always been there behind Shivam and Soham. तो दोनों की स्कूल शुरू हो गई होगी अभी, right?
Yeah, Soham slept and Shivam is studying.
Right. काफी काम रहता है बच्चों को. Yeah. So oh, Hare Krishna, Sachin.
Hare Krishna, Raj.
Krishna. So we'll get started. Essentially, just to give a summary, हम लोग श्रीमद् भागवतम पढ़ रहे हैं, and as you can see on the screen, there are 12 cantos. Yeah, means there are 12 books in Srimad Bhagavatam. So एक तो भगवद गीता है और एक है श्रीमद् भागवतम. So जैसे भगवद गीता में there are 700 श्लोक्स, और श्रीमद् भागवतम में do you remember how many shloks are there?
18,000.
18,000, yeah. So there are 18,000 shloks in Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are 12 cantos, 12 books, as you can see, and total together there are 332 chapters. Okay, हम लोगों ने अभी तक, we have completed canto 1, which is about creation of this universe, and in fact, we also did Kunti Stuti, Bhishma Stuti, and there was so much devotion and knowledge right in Canto 1 itself. And then Canto 2 was all about the cosmic manifestation, like how this universe was created, how many layers are there, how many planets are there, and so on and so forth, right? And now what we are reading is the status quo, and the status quo is where Maitreya Muni is describing about, or he's answering all the questions of Mahatma Vidur. Yeah. So I think we'll recap a little bit, and then I think slowly we'll catch up. Yeah, I think so. Don't worry about what you don't remember or what you don't understand. I think each shlok is important. So treat each shlok as new shlok. Yeah, so that you don't have to worry about it. So right now we are on Canto 3, which is about the status quo. और कैंटो 3 में हम लोग अध्याय 25 पे हैं अभी. Okay, so as you can see, there are so many chapters in each of the books. We are on chapter 25, which is about the glories of devotional service. Yeah, and what this really explains is, so just to give you a brief story about it. So Brahmaji wanted to expand this universe. Yeah, and to expand this universe, he instructed Karda Muni, and Karda Muni is son of Brahmaji, and he asked Karda Muni to do tapasya and then also expand the universe depending on how Brahmaji wanted. Yeah. So then Karda Muni went onto the Yamuna river and he did tapasya for like, in those days, they used to do tapasya for like thousands of years. And then Lord Vishnu appeared to Karda Muni. Yeah. So Vishnu Bhagwan ne Karda Muni ko darshan diye. And then also he told him that Lord Vishnu himself will appear once Karda Muni gets married. And he also told him like he will get married to Devhuti. And Devhuti is daughter of, I know if you remember, Devhuti is daughter of whom? It's 2 months, right? Who is the first Manu? Like
Manu.
we are descendants of Manu, right? And first Manu is Shwambhu Manu. Okay. So Shwambhu Manu and his daughter is Devhuti. So then Karda Muni gets married to Devhuti. And then Brahmaji also gave blessings to Karda Muni that they will have 9 daughters. And those 9 daughters will get married to all the big Rishi Munis like Atri Rishi, Vasishta Muni, and so on and so forth. So those 9 daughters of Karda Muni and Devhuti got married to all the Rishis. And then after that, Lord Vishnu had told Karda Muni that Vishnu himself will appear to them as Kapil Muni. I don't know if you have heard about Kapil Muni. So Kapil Muni is one of the avatars of Lord Vishnu, and he is famous for spreading Sankhya Gyan. Sankhya Gyan is the knowledge about transcendence, like transcendental knowledge. That's the spiritual knowledge of self-realization. So that's how Kapil Muni then appeared to Karda Muni and Devhuti. And then it was also mentioned that the Karda Muni, after all this, he went to do the tapasya and he left everything and he went into the forest to do tapasya. And then Devhuti was left alone. But then Karda Muni had told Devhuti that Kapil Muni will appear, who is none other than Lord Vishnu. And then he is going to help out Devhuti in gaining the transcendental knowledge. Yeah. So this is just a very quick background of what we are reading right now. And so this chapter, which is the glories of devotional service, is basically Karda Muni explaining to Devhuti, who is actually also his mom, but he's explaining as a rishi in terms of the transcendental knowledge and what are the glories of devotional service. Devotional service is nothing but bhakti. Yeah. So hum log and then also just some more background, since we have taken this break, is Srimad Bhagavatam was if you remember, Sukdev Goswami ji is reading this to, is reciting this to Parikshit Maharaj. Yeah. Like if in India, we do this Saptaji, 7 days Srimad Bhagavatam. And that 7 days Srimad Bhagavatam is based on, what Parikshit Maharaj was hearing from Sukdev Goswami ji. And after Sukdev Goswami ji was reciting to Parikshit Maharaj, Sud Goswami ji, and you don't have to remember the names right now, but Sud Goswami ji was present when Sukdev Goswami ji was reciting this to Parikshit Maharaj. So when this Kali Yuga was about to start, right after Lord Sri Krishna, Sud Goswami ji and all these Rishi Munis gathered at Nemi Saranya. So there is a place near UP which is called Nemi Saranya. So there all the Rishi Munis had gathered, and they gathered to do tapasya and to think, because Kali Yuga has started and all the people are going to go through all the miseries and so on and so forth. So what is the solution for that, right? So all the Rishi Munis wanted to do tapasya, and the head of the Rishi Munis was Sonak Muni. Okay, like as I'm highlighting this, Sonak Muni. And so, but then all the Rishi Munis said that Sud Goswami ji, who was also present among the Rishi Munis, they asked him to recite Srimad Bhagavatam, because in Kali Yuga, none other than devotional service or bhakti is what can help you in getting the spiritual realization. and getting out of this world. So then Sud Goswamiji is then reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam to all the Rishi Munis at Nemisaranya, which is the same Srimad Bhagavatam which Sukdev Goswamiji was reciting to Parikshit Maharaj. Yeah. And then Maitreya, so then what happens in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is Vidur Maharaj, I think you all of us know Mahatma Vidur, yeah? I think everyone knows Mahatma Vidur, Dhritarashtra and Pandu's younger brother.
Yes, yes.
So Mahatma Vidur, once when the war was going on and Dhritarashtra, he asked him to go away, right? And like Duryodhan basically asked Mahatma Vidur to go away, and Mahatma Vidur actually went himself, and he went into Tirath journey. So he went to do all the Tirath Sthan and all that. Then Mahatma Vidur meets Uddhavji at Yamuna river. Yeah. And then Mahatma Vidur, because knows that Uddhavji is a, is big Jnani, he asks him to explain about the transcendental knowledge. Okay. And so Uddhavji tells Mahatma Vidur that he has to go to Badrinath to do further tapasya, because that's what was instructed to him by Lord Shri Krishna. And he advised Mahatma Vidur to go to Gangatar, where Maitreya Muni is waiting for Mahatma Vidur. So that's what Uddhavji tells Mahatma Vidur, to go to Gangatar. So Mahatma Vidur goes to Gangatar, and then he meets Maitreya Muni. And Maitreya Muni is none other than, like he himself heard about the whole transcendental knowledge from none other than Lord Shri Krishna. Okay, so there's a story about that. At some point we can capture that. But so that same Maitreya Muni is also explaining this to Mahatma Vidur. So what we are reading is the answers to questions raised by Mahatma Vidur by Maitreya Muni. Yeah. So I think, there's so much I just mentioned in few minutes. Don't worry about all the names and everything. I think we'll get that. Yeah. But currently we are on Shlok 19. Okay. So the way we do is we read the Shlok and then we read the translation. And all these Shloks are right now, what's going on is Kardam Muni is explaining it to Devhuti. Yeah. So Devhuti is mom of Kapil Muni. Sorry, Kapil Muni is explaining it to Devhuti, right? And Kapil Muni is son of Kardam Muni and Devhuti. And Kardam Muni has taken to forest as a sannyas. Kapil Muni is none other than Lord Vishnu. And he is explaining this to Devhuti. So we'll start with Shlok 19. Yeah. And so Sachin, would you like to read?
न युज्यमानया भक्त्या भगवत्य खिलात्मनि सदृशो अस्ति शिवः पंथा योगिनां ब्रह्म सिद्धये. Perfection is in self-realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless he engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For that is the only auspicious path. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So what Kapil Muni is telling is that there are so many kinds of yogi, right? And yogas, but what he's saying here is the self-realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless he engages in devotional service. Yeah. And devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And once you engage yourself on that, then there is a chance of getting the perfection in self-realization. Yeah, is what is being mentioned here. Like, and there's some nice purport mentioned here. So we'll just read few lines here. Neetu, padhoge?
Huh. That knowledge and renunciations are never perfect unless joined by devotional service is explicitly explained here. Na yudmanaya means without being dovetailed. When there is devotional service, then the question is where to offer that service. Devotional service is to be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Soul of everything, for that is the only reliable path of self-realization or Brahman realization. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So basically the point here which is being mentioned is devotional service is bhakti, and whom do you do bhakti to is to Supreme Personality of Godhead, yeah. And who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Is Lord Shri Krishna, yeah. So Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is the super soul of everything, yeah. So as I think when we read further, we'll again talk about the Suksham Sharir and the gross body and the soul and the super soul, yeah. But for now, we should just know that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the super soul of everything. And just read few more lines here. Munmun, do you want to read?
Sure. In the beginning of the second chapter of a Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that when one engages himself in the devotional service of Vasudeva, spiritual knowledge and renunciation of the material world automatically become manifest. Thus, a devotee does not have to try separately for renunciation or knowledge. Devotional service itself is so powerful that one's service attitude, everything is revealed. It is stated here.
Shiva.
Shiva Pantha, right?
Mhm.
This is the only auspicious path for self-realization.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So very important fact
Hare
mentioned
Krishna.
here is that one engages himself in the devotional service of Vasudeva. And then how do we engage ourselves in the devotional service? Like what do we have to do to engage ourselves?
Shravan Kirtan.
Right. Shravanam, Kirtanam, right? So one is chanting, right? Like in the beginning of our Satsang, we start with chanting. So that's one way of doing the devotional service. So we are chanting on Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So that's devotional service to Vasudeva. Then we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the Katha of Bhagwan. And that is a Satsang. So that is another way of devotional service. So there are like 9 ways which are mentioned how the devotional service is done. Yeah. So the important part though mentioned here, right, is the devotional service of Vasudeva, who is Lord Shri Krishna. What happens if you do the devotional service? Then what happens is the spiritual knowledge and renunciation of the material world, like automatically become manifest. So you will see that, we'll see a lot of people doing just pure meditation, or they are just trying to, give away everything, take the sannyas, that is renunciation of the material world, right? And work very hard. And at the end, devotional service still is very important. But what is being mentioned here is, if you are doing devotional service to Vasudeva, slowly and slowly what will happen is the spiritual knowledge, you will start gaining the knowledge by itself. Like some or other ways, you will come in contact or whatever will happen, you will start gaining the spiritual knowledge by yourself. And the renunciation of the material world, what does that mean is, you will understand what is the difference between the material world and the spiritual world. And so, even though you will be doing all the karmas, you will feel like you are detached from the material world. And all that will automatically happen, automatically become manifest if you are engaging in the devotional service of Lord Vasudeva. Yeah. It says here, like the devotional service itself is so powerful that by one's service attitude, serving to Sri Krishna, everything is revealed. Okay. So we don't have to worry about how are we going to get this knowledge, how are we going to get details from the material world. As long as we do the devotional service, slowly and slowly, the soul will get purified, and then everything will be revealed by the Lord himself, is what is being mentioned here. Yeah. And if you have any comments or any questions, suggestions, just feel free to talk about it. Okay. So we'll read one more shlok. today we had to spend a lot of time in background, but let's just do one more shlok here. Rinaji.
Yes, Bhaiya. Prasanga majaram pashamatmanam kaviyo vido sa eva sadhusyo krito moksha dwaram pavritam. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Again, very important thing mentioned here, right? What it says is, and we all know this, like we are all attached to this material world, right? All of us. It says here, Pashma Atmana hai, like the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul, right? Attachment to the material world, and we are all stuck into this. But what it is saying is that if the same attachment you just change from the materialistic world, right, to sadhu sukrito, it says I apply to the self-realized devotees, then what happens? That opens the door of liberation. Is what is being mentioned. He says moksha dwaram pavritam. Yeah. So very nice. Sure. Sweta, padhoge?
Here is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage in conditioned life, and the same attachment when applied to something else open the door of liberation. Attachment cannot be killed, it has simply to be transferred. Attachment for material thing is called material consciousness, and attachment for Krishna or his devotee is called Krishna consciousness. Consciousness is therefore the platform of attachment. It is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, we attain liberation despite the statement that one should give up attachment. Desiredness is not possible for a living entity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. Okay, Sweta. So, a lot of people will say, okay, give away everything. You don't have to worry about anything, right? You don't feel anything. Don't have to get attached to anything. But as a living entity, what is being mentioned here is it's not possible, right? You will always be attached to something. The consciousness is always thinking about something. So what is being mentioned here is that consciousness, instead of focusing on the material things, right? Instead of the material things, you just need to change your consciousness to Krishna consciousness, right? And that can happen by the devotional service, which we talked about, right? So, and if that happens, then we can start, progressing in our spiritual journey. And let's, this is also a very nice paragraph. Let's read this, Ajay.
Here it is recommended that attachment should be transferred to self-realized devotees, the sadhus. And who is a sadhu? A sadhu is not just an ordinary man with a saffron robe or long beard. A sadhu is described in Bhagavad Gita as one who is unflinchingly engaged in devotional service. Even though one is found not to be following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service, if one simply has unflinching faith in Krishna, the Supreme Person, he is understood to be a sadhu. Sadhu eva sa mantaya. A sadhu is a strict follower of devotional service. It is recommended here that if one at all wants to realize Brahman or spiritual perfection, his attachment should be transferred to sadhu or devotee. Lord Chaitanya also confirmed this. Lava mantra sadhu sange sarva siddhi hayu. Simply by a moment's association with a sadhu, one can attain perfection. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So the beautiful part here is who is a sadhu, right? So sadhu is not just because you have put on some saffron thing and you have long beard and all, right? All those things. Sadhu is who? Who is sadhu? The sadhu is the one who is unflinchingly engages in the devotional service. The one who is doing the bhakti. So when we see all these higher devotees, who are doing the devotions and bhakti and service, they are the real sadhus, and they can help us in understanding and attaining perfection. Yeah. So, it also says that if we want to associate with the sadhu, we cannot expect him to give us instructions on how to improve our material condition, right? But he will give us instructions on how to cut the knot of the contamination of material attraction and how to elevate ourselves in devotional service. So a sadhu is not like, okay, give me $1 billion, give me this, give me that. Sadhu is the one who is going to elevate ourselves in devotional service, who is going to teach us bhakti. That's the real sadhu. So that is the result of associating with the sadhu. Kapil Muni, first of all, instructs that path of liberation begins with such association. Okay. So, Hare Krishna, we are going to pause here. So what we do at the end is we play some kirtan for a couple of minutes, and then it gets disconnected by itself, right? So don't worry, because once it's 40 minutes, it gets disconnected so that we don't overrun 40 minutes. Okay. So Hare Krishna, I'll play a kirtan, and then we'll see you tomorrow at 9:20 p.m. EST. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहार